Hey guys, this is Ashley. Thank you for coming back to my channel to join me for another video. I was just praying about what topic I could share on, and what came to me was the topic of acceptance and the role that plays in our surrender to the Lord and how it brings peace to our lives. So sometimes when we are in a place that we didn't want to be, or we have certain circumstances in our life that we didn't want or expect, of course, we're gonna go through this grieving period in our lives where we have to grieve what we thought things were gonna be as opposed to what they actually are. And maybe it was something sudden, or maybe it was something gradual. Maybe you had it in your heart to have a certain thing accomplished, or a certain thing that you would have had already by now in life. Maybe getting married, or maybe having children, whatever that desire is that never came to fruition. Or maybe you had something and you lost it. Maybe you were married and went through a divorce. And you're going through this tension with frustration internally with yourself, with God, even with people, and you don't even realize it, that you're going through that sometimes. And it's hard because you have to go through that to get to a place of acceptance. It's very normal to go through that, and I think it would be almost fake or insincere to skip over that step, because if something really mattered to you, it's going to impact you emotionally on some level. And I think rather than trying to deny that or suppress that truth from you, it's better to just be honest with yourself and say, this really is disappointing for me. I'm even mad at God because I'm confused. I don't understand His plan for my life. I feel like, or I thought that I was doing everything that I knew to do or was supposed to do in order to obtain whatever that thing was that you wanted. And just want to encourage you, friends, that's normal and healthy even to go through that process. And I think though that once you go through it, you get to the other side where you can just accept it and come to this place of peace, because you're no longer rejecting what is, and you begin to find peace and contentment with what your current circumstances are, because then you can only control what you can control, right? So then when you have those boundaries more defined for yourself, you can begin to find more of less of a sense of helplessness. There you go. That helplessness feeling can really be overpowering at times, and can send us off the deep end, because you're just like, you don't even know how to handle that feeling or that emotion at times. And I just felt like the Lord wanted me to add words to this experience or process, because I think that it would have helped me if somebody had encouraged me. That was very normal to feel that way, especially with a loss or trauma, anything to that. Even if it's something that just never happened in your life, that still matters. It still has affected you in some way. So it's important to just be truthful with yourself and with God about that, as opposed to just suppressing it or acting like it doesn't exist. And I think sometimes we may share with the wrong people as well, that they don't have the wisdom to know how to respond to your grief and to your questions. And sometimes it's best to not always share it, and to pray and be discerning about who you share it with, because that can really send you off the deep end too. If you're really struggling and you need a safe space to let that come out, and people sometimes unintentionally, they can say things that make it worse. So the Lord just wants you to use wisdom with that. Remember Job and his friends, they weren't very helpful to him. And so it's very normal if you've gone through this, or you have lost friendships. I can speak from experience that I've lost friends along the way when I was going through my grief season, and I didn't know how to handle my emotions. And I think I did things that it wasn't always wise, but I was just responding in the moment to what I was going through and what I was feeling. But now that I look back, I can give myself grace and empathy and say, you know what, I was doing the best thing that I knew to do at that time with what I was given. And I believe, give yourself some grace and remind yourself that you are doing the best you can with what you know. And it might be wise too to maybe even get a counselor. I have a counselor right now. I've been with her not quite a year yet, but sometimes it takes a while to find a good one. And I'm really grateful I found her, because she's able to put words to experiences that I'm going through. And I think sometimes that's the hardest part. You're going through it for the first time for yourself. It wasn't a surprise to God. He knew you were going to go through that. But when you're going through it yourself, there can be this sense of isolation or overwhelm, because you don't really know how to respond or how to cope with it. And that's completely normal. And even having feelings of anger towards God is normal as well. And just giving yourself that permission to say it's okay and being honest with yourself and with God. Because if you're not honest, that can cause even more problems and depression and confusion, all of that. So it's really best to just confess what you're feeling and let the light into that place in your heart, because that's the only way that you're going to get that breakthrough. But anyhow, there's this quote from Brennan Manning. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but it's something to the effect of, with acceptance comes tenderness. And I've always held on to that. I didn't quite understand at the time what that meant, but now that I'm going through that stage more so in my life, I'm starting to get it. There's just a peace that comes with accepting what things are and what you can't control, because you just put God back in the throne and back on being the Lord of your life, and just acknowledging that He's sovereign over your circumstances, and just asking God to help you make the most of what your current circumstances are, and asking God to give you that purpose, because there is a purpose for each season that we're in. And sometimes the fear comes in that, oh, I'm just going to be here forever. This is just going to be am I going to be stuck here forever? And is this ever going to go away? And I think that we forget that things are seasonal, and there is scripture in the Word that talks about how God sends good times and bad times in our life. So the bad things are often very important times in our life where God begins to do some good work with tearing down lies that we've believed and false belief systems, and just teaching us how to create a solid foundation based off of truth, and walking with Him and knowing His ways, and not just going off of what we think. And really learning too how to depend on the Lord, because sometimes in life we've just gotten so used to depending on people for comfort, for identity. And just when that gets taken away, it can be very disorienting and can feel like God is upset with you or punishing you, but that's not true. It's actually a compliment. He's working on your identity in Him, and He wants to teach you what that means and how to function in that. So I just want to encourage somebody out there who might be struggling with this, and it's definitely a process to get to acceptance. But I think that before reaching acceptance, it's a choice to surrender to God. And when you choose to surrender, even though it takes a while and it's a process, I think that's when you're able to begin accepting things as well and trusting God. Because ultimately, surrender is saying you trust God with your circumstances. And as you surrender that to the Lord, you begin to have peace, because you're not by yourself navigating it, and God isn't surprised where you're at, and He's going to help you and give you the tools and the people to help you get through that, and teaching you how to depend on Him more as well, and just continue building that trust relationship with Him. So anyhow, I hope this helps encourage somebody, just putting words to this process. And you're not alone. It's definitely not easy by any means, but you're not alone, and just continue to believe in Him and trust in Him. And sometimes God doesn't always tell us how long we're going to be in a season, and we just have to be patient. I think that's the other side of this too. Patience is so key to get through any sort of difficulty you might be experiencing, and just continuing to remember that your life is not your own, and your life belongs to the Lord. So just making that your focus, that you're going to live to glorify His name, and even in your suffering, that you're going to choose to honor the Lord in that suffering and trust Him in that suffering, and that in due time He's going to strengthen you through it and exalt you. Like it says in the Word, when we humble ourselves, in due time He will lift us up. So anyhow, just want to encourage you guys. I hope y'all are having a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.